Julian Stamboulieh, the filmmaker of the film OK Boomer. Welcome to the Canadian Independent Film Festival.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks to be here. Well, I want to talk first about the background of your film. It's an adaptation from a play. What drew you into making this film? Why did you choose this play exactly?
So the original play was a piece written by Theatre West End by a theatre writer named Anne Lambert. And we were actually commissioned, my company was commissioned to document that play along with a bunch of others. After I finished and edited it together, I felt so captivated by the play, and I had such like a personal resonance with it that I went and asked her if she wanted to adapt it into a film, which she had never done before, and was very excited to do. And the reason I love the play so much is that the writer herself is a boomer who is a teacher. It's coming from a personal space, but also she was super open and generous to the other point of view, the point of view of kind of a Gen Z person. And I really appreciated that the play itself was a conversation and was something just about like improving communication. And myself as a millennial, I've often felt stuck between generations that are not communicating. And I think a lot of the issues in our world right now have to do with a complete disconnect and lack of communication. And a lot of the times a demonization of the other point of view. And I think that if we just take the time to sit down and talk about things in person, not on Instagram or X, I think a lot of stuff can be solved. Because we'll remember, we're all human.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to mention that in your film, you mentioned the generational clashes. You mentioned lots of stuff that like we see nowadays with Generation Z, and like the older generation can't really, let's say, understand perhaps, or yeah, like for example, going viral on TikTok or on Instagram because of a video, and then there's like this pressure from the work to fix the situation because of this viral thing that went on. That led me to think, did you change anything when it comes to the play? Did you add anything to the film to shed the light more on this topic?
There's only two things that were changed, other than I added in the words chat ABC, because that wasn't in the original. I was very happy about that. Anyway, there's two things that were changed, other than, minor script changes from the play, because Anne's writing was already fantastic. The two things that I changed were, one, I added in that final scene where the boomer and the Gen Z person actually sit down and face each other. I thought that was very important to kind of have this closure to the film, because that short play was originally part of a series of short plays, and I think it fit better for the play. For me, I wanted to have some kind of resolution. The second thing was actually, in order to put my voice into the film, to kind of like have an avatar in there, the dean character was originally played by another boomer. So the dean and the teacher were colleagues. I wanted to be able to put my own point of view in there as the filmmaker, of just being like, I feel stuck a lot of the times. And so I felt that as the dean character kind of representing that, taking on both sides and having to negotiate, I changed that character into a millennial Gen X border kind of spot.
Well, that's interesting how you put like 3 generations in one room, and actually your film is a one-room plot. And let's talk a bit more about the technicalities. Like, it's really hard sometimes to shoot in one room, because sometimes it might have like it limits the creativity, and sometimes it can be actually a push toward to be more creative, to think outside the box. So tell me more about shooting in a one-room plot. How was it as a filmmaker, technically and on the creative level?
So yes, it does kind of sometimes, it creates barriers, but a lot of times that means that you just have to think of more creative ways to do things. For example, when the teacher is being presented, played by Laura Mitchell, who was sensational, is shown the video. In the original play piece, that's her just stepping forward into a spotlight and giving a monologue. I wanted to be able to do that in a different way that kind of fits more with technology, and so that's kind of how we did it, as a single long shot, filming the screen of the video, which I was very happy worked out the way it did. When we were shooting this film, it was actually happening during the Quebec wildfires, so it was actually orange outside, and so color correction took some work. That room was perfect for us. Originally, it was supposed to be in an office, and we looked everywhere for an office until we finally found this space that was inside a CEGEP here, Dawson College. It's our boardroom. It's huge. Art director's like, holy moly, what am I gonna do with this giant room? But she did wonders, so did our entire camera and lighting department. And so I think that as long as the space lends itself to having a lot of people in there and being able to hide lights and hide decorations, I don't feel the stress of a single room. But I've never been able to write a single room thing before, because I always go, oh, I'm gonna add this, I wanna add that, and by the end then you got like 30 locations and you can't do that.
Well, that's very interesting. We just covered your story, we covered your techniques, the one-room plot. Now I want to cover more about the message you want to say. So let me quote two people in this question, and it's going to be a long question. I want to quote you, and I want to quote one of your film characters, who is actually the lecturer who was in trouble because of the viral video. So you say that you approach new projects playfully, yet with critical eye for details, and you value the audience. And she says in the film, at the end, when she felt like she's defeated, I'm gonna eat all the shit I'm required to. This is exactly her line. So in that sense, what do you want to tell the audience who will see your characters at the end just facing each other in that room?
So I value the audience in two ways. One, I started off in web series with my business partner, Beatrice Warner. We created a web series called LARPs, and we were kind of showcasing a demographic that hasn't been spoken about properly with a proper voice. And by properly representing that demographic, we earned their trust, and they became evangelists for the project. So the first way that I respect the audience is that I always want to make sure that whatever I'm creating is treating whatever demographic we're talking about with respect and with an authentic voice. Because in the end, then they will properly see themselves portrayed on camera and will champion the film and the message. The second way I always want to respect audiences, I don't want to feed them anything. I don't want to have to be like, this is the point of the movie, you know? And so I do find a lot of the times, especially even in my earlier work, I really want to hammer the message in, but slowly and surely I've just been backing away from that and treating the audience's intelligence and whatever with a lot more respect. And so that's how I do that. What I want them hopefully to take away from this is that kind of what I was saying before, is that we are all people. We all have our own experiences. We have our own backgrounds. Even if we don't agree with each other on solutions, I think 9 times out of 10, people have humanity's best interests in mind. And even if they don't agree with the way to get there, if we can just respect that and start a conversation based off that everyone deserves respect, everyone deserves life, everyone deserves their humanity. Doesn't matter where they come from or what age they are, we need to respect that and start conversations.
Well, it's really an intriguing film, your film. I'm a huge fan of that film, to be honest.
Thanks a bunch.
So your film, OK Boomer. Thank you, Julian Stamboulieh, for being here present at the Canadian Independent Film Festival. And we're very excited to see new projects and to host you again and again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, friends.